Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. For those who have seen my last video about my life with autism, you may be asking, what is autism? Well, in this video, I am going to be talking only about autism and what it does to other people and to those who actually have it. Now, let's start with this. Autism is a developmental disorder. If you don't know what that means, it means that they can have trouble like developing like social skills or like their motor skills or like other things like that, like how to be independent and like how to talk to other people or and how to like start conversations and stuff like that. But what some people also don't know is that it's not only just a social disorder, but it also can affect like how like you react to something that they don't like. So like say for example, like well, a lot of autistic people do not like things that are different in their routine. Now, when I mean routine, like it doesn't always mean like it has to be like a schedule that they follow like every single day. Sometimes it can also be from something that they don't want different, like in their space, even if it's not part of their space, but it's like someone else's and they don't like it when it's different. And when I mean different, I mean like they don't like if something is moved out of place where it should be originally, or it's a different color, or it's got scratches, like stuff like that. And then they start panicking because, like, how that works is that, well, because when you're autistic, you have, like, your brain is wired differently. So, like, think of it this way. Like, think of your brain as a generator that has wires all over your body that send the messages back to the generator. But say that your brain is an autistic brain. This could mean like the generator, which is your brain, could be disabled. And that means like it can't take like a certain amount of sensors, like from when the nerves send messages to your brain. So like the brain can be too disabled to handle things that could be too strong for the brain, especially because like a generator that's disabled can't take all that power that it receives and all that because it could be too much for it, and like it overheats or malfunctions. That's how it is with your brain, pretty much, just like a machine does. And like also like when that happens, like people who are autistic, like when they're having those moments, it's called a sensory overload, which means that your senses, like from, the messages that your brain, gets from your nerves, and tells your brain what's going on, like, it gets too much, for your brain, like kind of like too much electricity going through a machine. And then the person can start having a meltdown or like do self-harm to themselves. And if you don't know what self-harm means, like that doesn't mean like suicide. No, like it's more like they either like can pound their heads on a desk or a chair or whatever there is, hit themselves in the face, and stuff like that, and some other stuff. It depends on the person, really, because autism affects everyone differently. And another thing is that other than like doing self-harm to themselves, they also can do like have meltdowns, such as like screaming, crying so loudly, and all that stuff. And of course the self-harm and all that stuff. Pretty much every autistic people does that. Like, even I still get meltdowns at some point. Not as bad as I have years ago when I was a kid, but even so, like, you know, because it's just part of your nervous system, because you have a different type of brain, and you're going to react different compared to people who don't have the disorder. Now, another thing that people don't quite understand about autism, like the people who don't have the disorder, like the way they sometimes see us, like they see people with the disorder, like sometimes, some people may see us like we could never be successful in life because we can't function, as well as, people who don't have the disorder. But that's not true because it all depends on how well we function. Just like I said a moment ago, autism affects everyone differently. But another thing to know about autism is that, other than just the social skills, the meltdowns, and all that stuff, another thing you also need to be aware of is that, like, we also can be, like, confused easily. So, like, even the easiest thing that can be told to us can still be confusing. Because what happens is that, like, we're constantly, like with me, for example, I'm constantly in my own world. So, like, I always have something pop into my head. Images, or, like, shows I've seen, movies, stuff like that. Or even objects I've seen before, and they just constantly pop into my head. Like, one image will be replaced after another. Like, I can't completely focus on what I'm doing. Even though, like, I'm a lot better with that these days, but it doesn't mean that it's gone, though. I still have those days when it's really bad that I can't actually, like, pay attention to what I'm doing, and my motor skills can go off. So, like, when that happens, either I could be, clumsy, or, like, sometimes maybe I could even, be a little jumpy or something like that. It all depends on how I feel and all that. And sometimes, I may even, be careless with something. Maybe sometimes I might even maybe hurt my hand or something, like if I was trying to work on a project or something like that. Because repairing antiques is a hobby of mine, and also, like, an obsession I have. And the obsession is also another thing that autistic people have. Like, they constantly, like, are attached to something so badly that, they don't even want to, like, anyone getting, in their space when they are obsessed with something. Because another thing that you must also be aware of is that autistic people prefer to be alone. Like, they don't like to socialize with other people or make friends because they're constantly in their own world, and to them, it's kind of scary to them to actually have other people near them, especially when they're in their own space or own world. And when that happens, the thing you should be aware of is, know what triggers them and be aware of next time of what they don't like. Because that can be what, triggers them, is mostly what they don't like different in their space or even in their routine and all that. Because, they start having meltdowns and they start panicking and getting confused, and then, like, self-harm and all sorts of stuff like that. But it can also be not just from, like, even just their own space, such as, like, their bedroom, for example, if you don't know what I'm talking about, their own space. But also, like, we also can react to stuff like that when we don't like how our hair is, the color of our hair, or, like, how, like, we dress or something like that, or even, like, how, like, people are not, like, accepting the fact that, we don't like what they like. And, like, even if, like, excuse me, like, say, for example, like, maybe, like, someone with the disorder is probably obsessed with cars, and, like, actual cars, for example. And they like how it is the way it is. But then all of a sudden the car, like, has changed color, even though it's not their car, but it's, like, maybe their parents' car or something. And when they see that is different, then, they start getting that sensory overload. Because, to them, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but, like, because what it can be is that it's like they want that to be part of their world, and they don't like it when it's not how they want it to be in their world. And people, can may even see us like we're being selfish and stuff like that, but in fact we're really not, because like the way we act and react to stuff because of it being different, especially if it's not our space and all that, and even if we're not comfortable with it. And a lot of people these days still even do take, a lot of autistic people for granted. And, like they can be impatient with us, and sometimes, could say, bad stuff about us. Or like say we have, too many problems and we can't be like normal people, which is not true. I mean, because it really, well, it depends on how people, think about other people in their opinion, though, and all that. But another thing, too, is that, like, the good thing is that just because you're autistic, that doesn't mean you can't, live independently or even have a normal life, just like people who don't have disorders. And, sometimes, it just takes time in order for you to actually, break through some of these things. But just because you break through of that doesn't mean you're cured, because there's no cure for autism. And there probably may not be, Well, who knows? I mean, maybe there might be one in the future. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, so I don't know. And, like, I mean, but the worst thing that people could ever do is not do anything at all for someone who has the disorder, because every little amount of help, still counts to them, because you still gotta keep an eye on them, because, not only can an autistic person or child, get aggressive to themselves, but they can get aggressive to other people. So, like, sometimes when they even have meltdowns, they can even hurt someone who's actually in their space, such as, like, biting, punching, slapping, and, stuff like that. But don't get mad at them for that, because if you get mad at them, it's not going to help. And yelling is not going to help either, because yelling only makes it worse. And absolutely, and I mean absolutely, do not slap them anywhere. Do not do anything like that. No slapping, even though a lot of parents do that to discipline their children, but that's not going to do anything, because it just makes it worse, especially for ones who are in a severe case of autism, because that's not going to change anything. And even if it's a little tap, to the person who's severely autistic, to them it hurts to them, because they can feel things like differently from people who don't have autism. Like a little tap kind of feels like a big deal to them and all that, especially because autistic people do not like being touched, whether it's being hugged or like a little tap, like a friendly tap or something, or even, and they don't like loud sounds, or any kind of loud sound. Even yelling is considered a loud sound, obviously, and that's not going to work because it overloads their brain. And the thing you must do is you must learn to be patient with them, whether it's someone like me who has high functioning autism. But even I still have my moments, though, but not as bad as people who have severe cases of it. Because, like I said before, like a while back, that autism affects people differently, just like a medical condition can, because not everything affects us all the same. So, we just gotta be aware of that. And, like, another thing that, sometimes can be difficult, too, is that even someone like me, like, even I can forget things so quickly because with my mind constantly like always bringing something up. Like I said a while back about images or whatsoever, like it's hard for me to like remember what I just saw, like that was right in front of me. Sometimes it's like that, yes. But sometimes if I see it more than once though, like I can even, I can actually remember that more than anyone else can. Because a lot of people who don't have autism, sometimes, they actually can't remember things as well as autistic people can. Because autistic people are visual thinkers. And what I mean by that, they understand things by seeing something, not by hearing what you say, because they're not going to understand exactly what you're telling them, because you actually got to like show them what you're trying to tell them. But even though sometimes it may take them time to actually understand it, they may not know how to get it at first though. Even me, like I sometimes don't get something at first. And even someone with severe cases of autism, it may take a little longer. And it's going to be harder, for them to learn that stuff because their minds are different, from ones who don't have autism. I mean, that don't have severe cases of autism. But just like anyone who has the disorder, we do have our moments. We get confused easily. We don't like changes or being touched or certain sounds we hear and all that. That's just how autism works. And some people take things a little too far about it too. Like, some people may actually, even say bad things about us. Like saying that maybe we could be stupid. But in reality, that's not what it is. Because here's the thing, anyone can be stupid, whether you have a disorder or not. Because anyone can do foolish stuff. And sometimes that's just, from mistakes that we've made. And, that's just what happens. I mean, just because you do something foolish doesn't actually mean you're stupid. No. It's not always that. Sometimes, like, you just are just having trouble understanding something. That's all. Like think of it this way. Since your brain, the autistic brain, is technically disabled, like a disabled generator, so it takes a while for you to learn these things. Just think of it another way. I know that some people know someone who probably has, who's probably crippled in the legs or something, like maybe from a stroke or an accident or whatsoever. And they gotta, go for physical therapy and stuff like that to help, get their movement back and all that stuff. Now, that's how it is with autism pretty much, because they're exercising the brain by going to, occupational therapy, a therapist, and all sorts of stuff. Or maybe family support and all that stuff. Because that's, how you do it when it comes to your brain. Just like you exercise with your legs when you're crippled, try to get your movement back and all that. And it takes time. So, you just, because your nervous system is different from what is compared to, how do I say this? Your physical health or something. Because your physical health, if you have, a terrible sickness, such as, cancer or diabetes or any other kind of deadly disease and stuff like that, or even maybe a heart attack or something, that's just how it works. I mean, because, when it comes to autism just affects your nervous system. So, and it's not anything that can kill you or anything like that. But, but when people, say that it affects our brains, like I said a while ago, sometimes, they may, see us differently and think we may not be as good as them. I mean, we are different, but never less different. And when I mean never less, I mean everyone in the world is different, whether they have disabilities or not. But that doesn't mean they're less different from people who don't have disorders. That's what it means. And so we can be just as different as anyone can be, because that's also what makes us very special. And, it makes us all unique. And we're all unique with something, We just gotta know, like, what we like to do, like our talents and stuff like that. And, just like with me, my autism has given me a gift. And my gift is repairing vintage appliances and all this stuff, even game systems, and I even like to help people around, life, like maybe my family or friends who may need advice with something, especially because I've gone through quite a lot in my life about struggling with the disorder and how to like overcome, my problems, or at least try to like walk away from the problem if I can't fix it, if something just doesn't go right, especially if people don't respect me. Because even nowadays, even I still sometimes am not respected like I should. I mean, that's just how it is with some people. I mean, even though no one is perfect with anything, you're never going to do something 100%, despite like a test you take like in school and stuff like that. Like you write your, like on your math test or quiz or something like that. But like, no one, is perfect. Like you can never do things 100% in life. Or like, you still can make mistakes. And it's okay because that's just how it is. And, even I still make mistakes too. Even when I'm driving, like I drive, but my motor skills are better and all that. But like anyone, with a mental disability, it can be hard for me to, sometimes have my moments when I'm trying to concentrate, especially when I'm having, like a flare up. Like if I feel like I'm about to have a meltdown, when it happens, I lose my concentration and can lose, control of what I'm doing. And when that happens, I need to pull over and, until I calm down. Or either pull over or go into a parking space and stuff like that. Or, wherever I can go where it's safe. Like, and because, like I said, autism is not curable. So, you're still going to have your moments if you have the disorder yourself. Even your friends or relatives are still going to have their moments too, no matter how well they, exercise their brain. Because, it's just part of the nerve system and you can't completely fix that. Just like you can't completely get your movement back if you're crippled in the legs. At least I think that's how it works. I mean, that's what I've heard or so, but I mean, I could be wrong though still. But that's just an example though, So because our brains can be exercised too, just like the movements of our bodies do, in order to get our muscles strong. Because even the brain's a muscle pretty much too, even though it's an organ too. But still, there are ways to, help. And if you're also wondering, like, how you should get help if you or someone who has the disorder is struggling, with everyday challenges in life, well, the best advice I could give is, well, obviously, like I said, you always should support them, but make sure you're patient with them and no harassing, and you must try to be patient with them. And like I said a while ago, no yelling, no slapping, nothing like that. No stuff like that, because it doesn't work like that. And also, don't punish them, because punishing them is not going to do anything either. Because, especially when they're struggling with it so badly, because it's not going to change anything. But putting them in timeout is okay, because they get a few minutes, of timeout. But punishing them for something that they are so attached to, it's not going to work, because, especially because autistic people are so attached to something that if they, don't get it, then obviously they're having a meltdown, which, is not their fault. And you can't blame them for that, because that's something they can't help. And you can't get mad about that, because that's just how it affects their nervous system. Now, another thing you must also do is, of course, you must see a specialist, like a specialist doctor, like ones that focus on people who have, learning disabilities. And like if you're if someone is still in school, like elementary school for example, they should make sure there's a program, called occupational therapy, which is for kids with learning disabilities, and a speech room where they can learn how to socialize and all that stuff. Even like a therapist can help, especially because a lot of autistic people, especially ones with high functioning ones like me, can have severe anxiety and all that stuff. And, like help talk through it and all that stuff, and like how to, get through it and with stuff like that. And, and try to try to keep their routine flowing as much as possible. Like, try not to make anything go wrong, like anything different. Another thing too, also, people with autism can also be really picky eaters. I forgot to mention about that, because that's also one of the things that they don't like, because it's part of the changes in their routine, because they must always have like the same meals or snacks all the time, because they're so attached to that and comfortable eating it. If they eat something else, then they freak out. So like I said, anything that goes differently that they see, hear, or smell, it can be anything pretty much, really. Anything that triggers them, you have to be aware of what triggers them. I know it can be hard, especially because sometimes, even I sometimes have trouble trouble explaining to people how I feel about certain things, especially when I'm actually feeling flustered and all that. And if I can't function properly, I just shut down. Like, if I shut down, I can't try to continue making a conversation on what I'm trying to say, especially because my brain is overwhelmed. Like, I'm having a little bit of a sensory overload. But it's not bad enough where I can have a meltdown. Sometimes it will happen when I have a meltdown, but not always, because I'm aware of when it's happening, because I can function enough to actually be independent, especially because I also drive and I cook, I take care of myself. I know what to do if there is an emergency, like if I was hurt or something like that, anything like that, really. But still, life can be a challenge, though. And it can be hard for other people, too. Especially because, people who have been around me a lot, especially my relatives, even still, sometimes they may not understand completely, what I go through in my life. And, how my brain is functioning. Because they're not going to know until I actually, do a certain, behaviors. Or, if I am getting too fidgety or something. Or maybe, what else should I say? Just, feeling, anxious or getting upset easily or something like that. Stuff like that, pretty much. So, that's just how it works when you go through something like that. So, you must all be aware of that. And be sure to make sure that, they are safe from harm. And if they are having meltdowns, make sure they're not in any position where they could hurt themselves, such as pounding their heads on something hard, such as a countertop, table, or whatsoever. And make sure there's dangerous stuff away from them, like knives or other dangerous objects, because they could do other self-harm to themselves. And sometimes they can do it so badly they can make themselves bleed or bruised. But that's mostly in severe cases, though. So, so I hope everyone gets the idea about what autism is, and how to know, what to do if someone has it, or if you think you may have it, or something like that. So I hope that this video was very helpful. And if anyone has any questions about autism, or things like how to get through tough times when you're struggling with it, or someone who is struggling with that, please feel free to comment on my YouTube channel or on social media and all that stuff. But please be respectful, and make sure, it's polite comments and no mean stuff. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and, don't forget to like and subscribe on my channel as usual. Thank you, and have a good day.